Mason Greenwood has everything it takes to be a star. 31 Premier League appearances, 12 starts, 10 goals. Few players have ever had such a productive breakthrough season, but how has Greenwood done it? Can he carry his scintillating form into next season and continue on his path to becoming a world-class player? Mason Greenwood has emerged this season and it was like the textbook breakthrough season you could possibly imagine. You've watched all his games. What's he been like sort of firsthand?
I think with someone that young, a lot of it is to do with confidence, and he obviously believes he can do it, but it's one thing transporting that into reality. And he is only 18 years old, and you'll see that he's not interviewed barely anywhere. I think he's done a handful of interviews, and that's a strong decision by the club to try and keep him out of the spotlight. And they don't want that pressure on him, because as soon as he starts scoring these goals, he's being compared to everyone. Can he be as good as Cristiano Ronaldo? Well, maybe he can. He's 18 years old, but the club don't want him to get carried away. They don't want him to get swept up into some sort of a media circus or anything like that. Wayne Rooney, he's been compared to him. All the greats of United's past, George Best. So it's all those links are already being made.
Someone who understands firsthand how Man United have protected Greenwood is commentator and presenter David Stowell, who's been aware of the prodigal talent since he was 13.
When you're a talented 17-year-old, you're bound to be better than a lot of the 17-year-olds you're playing against. The academy system at the moment in Britain means that generally you play against 15, 16, 17-year-olds at under 18s level, and then you move up and then you're still playing against people your age in the under 23 system. We don't seem to have an awful lot of older first team players who've been round the block who play in the reserve games to get match fitness like we used to many years ago. And that means that you can still stand out at under 23 level, but then when you make that jump to first team level, it's massive.
In August 2019, Romelu Lukaku left Man United for Inter in a €60 million deal.
You let Lukaku and Sanchez go, you didn't bring anybody else in. It seemed like the right decision.
For me, it was the right decision, because I think it's for the club and for him, I think he's going to be important for us this season.
It's always interesting when a player like Lukaku leaves and then there's not the urgency from the manager that you would expect, because he clearly knew that he had this unbelievable baller waiting in the wings.
Yeah, the Lukaku leaving thing was interesting because the club had known for a long time that he wanted to leave. So what if they really wanted a striker, why didn't they have someone lined up to come in? But it sort of at the time felt a bit like, was he just saying that because they hadn't managed to get who they wanted? But Solskjaer was insistent that he hadn't brought anyone in because he didn't want to block Greenwood's path.
And that decision was vindicated in Greenwood's return for the 1920 season, scoring 17 goals in 48 games.
Where do you think his best position is? Because at 18's level, we saw him a lot as the centre forward, where Solskjaer's been playing him more off the right.
I think there are players at United who are better through the middle than out wide. So Ole's got that sort of conundrum of saying, well, if I want to play Anthony Martial through the middle as a centre forward, then I'll still want to have Mason in my team because I know if he gets a chance, he'll finish it. But maybe I nudge Mason out wide to the left or to the right. You don't quite know where he's going to go. And that's valuable in itself, obviously, because it tricks the opposition sometimes. Because particularly with Rashford, Martial and Greenwood, when you see them all on the team sheet as a commentator before a game, one of your jobs is to guess the formation, filter that back through to your production team so that the graphics are right before a match. And actually, in any given game, those three could be in any different position. And so Mason gives you a headache as a commentator as well as an opposition manager in that respect.
Was he doing that at youth level, giving the opposition a headache?
Yeah, because they never knew what he was going to do next. The problem is with somebody like Mason, fine, he'll go on the outside, he'll come inside and have a shot. There was never a safe way to usher him in a game. And that was all the way back in youth level, particularly at the 18s level when he stepped up and he was on the television regularly.
How old would he have been when you first started hearing all these positive things about him and people building him up in the background?
I think I probably started hearing about him when he was about 13, 14, because a lot of coaches and scouts and people who watch youth football talk about players well before you get to know about them in the mainstream. You know when a player's got ability, but those years between sort of 12, 13, 14 up to when they're realistically going to have a chance of a first team debut are so important as a human being, let alone as a footballer. Just learning how to grow up a little bit, as well as actually learning the nuts and bolts of the game. Then obviously he grew physically, which has really helped him burst onto the scene.
You've seen his development from the start of the season to where he is now. And then over lockdown, he put on 3 kilograms of muscle. So we're now seeing he's a stronger player. He's able to hold players off. And then everyone knows he can use both of his feet. So that throws defenders off, it throws goalkeepers off, and even alternates what foot he takes his penalties with.
That's just showing off though, really, isn't it? With the fact that he is so fluid and the fact that he can play anywhere across the front three, is there a possibility that he might sort of suffer with talk of other players coming in who might automatically be first choice on, say, the right or down the middle?
I'm not sure if United get who they want to get this summer, which is obviously all up in the air at the moment. You're not going to go and spend near to maybe £100 million on a player and not think that they're going to start every single game. And Greenwood will know that, but I think the game against Copenhagen in the Europa League, when it was going into extra time and you looked at the bench, there wasn't really a massive game changer sitting on the bench. To be fair to Juan Mata, he did come on and was that person, but he's coming towards the end of his career and they're not going to be able to rely on him to come off the bench and change games for him all the time. So Greenwood's role might change slightly. I wouldn't say that he'd be on the bench all the time, but if you've got change in your formation, there's going to be a lot more rotation in terms of not just this is the second string and this is my favourite starting 11. I think it's going to have to be more subtle changes, and that's where he definitely shouldn't be concerned about his place in that. If he's not in that first starting 11, he's not going to get back in it.
He's always going to be an asset for Manchester United and potentially for England in whichever one of those slots he fills. I think he is someone who doesn't need competition from others to kick him on. Competition can unsettle players, but I think if you've got that drive to be the best anyway, then you're in a pretty safe place mentally, as well as potentially in the team.
And we all know, I mean, there's no one who knows better than Ole Solskjaer what it's like for a manager to look down and see that there's a definite goal scorer sat right there to be able to bring on if they need to.
Yeah, of course. And I think at the moment, they don't have that. If they had a bigger squad and more options and he was available off the bench, like you say, super sub, just like his manager was, then it's a different role, but it could be just as fruitful for him.